talk from our Rev.Anne and Corbin. Rev.Anne and you know our wonderful Salas are the ones that are choir directors.
Choir directors.
And choir too. and it's nice to have Rev.Anne here. We've been talking about fear. I started out talking about fear that we found out in our Brown and Black Lives Matter group that met. And that was the biggest thing, was people were fearful. And I thought, what a wonderful sermon that we're going to have today about fear. Please welcome Rev.Anne.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Reverend Dottie, and thank you, everybody. I'm going to lower this a little bit because I'm not quite as tall as you are. Okay.
And is it too warm in here?
No.
It's just cat. It's just cat.
Raise the energy.
Yeah. When you raise the energy, it always gets warmer. So, you know, speaking of the choir sings the first and third Sundays of the month. And last Sunday, we did a song that I just think is a perfect lead-in, actually, to this talk today. So, if you want to join in, I'm just doing the first verse, which is, in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, one Spirit, is in this very room. And isn't that the truth? In this very room, all the prayers that were spoken this morning, some of the prayers, they come a little bit from fear because we're afraid for our loved ones. But what we turn it into is we turn it into love. Love for our loved ones. Because each and every one of us is love. Why? Because we're part of God, of the Great Spirit. As I call it, in the universal love and light. I don't even always use the word God or goddess. I say all that is, I say universal love and light, because to me, God in its purest form, and each of us in our purest form, is love. And what is fear? Fear is the unknown. It's really just not knowing what we're stepping into. And fear can be so much of a part of our lives in so many different ways. You know, because there's people that bring fear into our lives. And, you know, for example, I have a doctor who keeps saying things to me like, you know, you're a heart attack and a stroke waiting to happen.
I have those same doctors.
I got the same doctor. And you know what? I could choose to buy into that fear. I could choose that, or I could choose what I've just recently chosen, because I had bought into that fear. I've been buying into that fear for a long time. And I've been walking, I mean, just little things like feel my blood pressure go up just slightly on a stressful day at work, and I'm like, you know, is my heart skipping beats? Am I, you know, too fast? Is my blood pressure too high? Am I going to have a stroke? Am I going to have a heart attack? And then finally I'm like, you know what? This has got to stop. Because I'm living in a lot of stress right now. I have a very stressful job in addition, you know, to my wonderful world here at church. I'm out there a finance manager for a very large software corporation, and I have a lot of responsibility, and I'm working a lot of hours. There's a huge project coming forward right now, or that I'm in the middle of, that I get to go and teach in Ireland next week. So I'm a little bit worried about that and concerned about, is it going to work well? Turn it over to love. But about my health, I had to decide that I was worthwhile. I had to decide that I'm worth loving, and that I'm worth loving myself. Because I am God. You are God. Every single one of you is a part of God. All of you. Every single one of you has that inside of you, and it's who we truly are. That's why we were put on this earth, was to find out that's who we really are. Isn't that amazing? So I loved myself enough that I am now have chosen to eat a healthy diet. I am cooking at home way more often. I'm not stopping at junk food places, picking up food on the way home. When I am stressed out, I'm drinking water instead of letting myself go thirsty. I am doing the things that are right for me. Am I exercising enough yet? No, but I'll get there. I'll get there. I'm not that worried about that part as much as...
Only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, there's only, as Jan says, only so many hours in a day. But I'm feeling good. And it's really calmed me down. And my stress at work has calmed down. And, you know, the other thing has always been, when I am feeling stressed, and when I come to the choir in the morning, I sometimes feel like, you know, I'm not feeling good, and if I show everybody that I'm not feeling good, they're not going to love me anymore. I'm not going to be worthy of their love anymore. And I've been doing things that I haven't done in the past. I've been sharing what's really been going on with me. Wonderful. Instead of making people stand there and say, I wonder what's going on with Anne. You think she's mad at me? You know, you think something's, you know, happening with that. That's love, okay? So if God is love and we're all love, then where does fear come into it? Fear comes in when we don't know where we're heading. We don't know what's happening. And it can be as simple as a child having a nightmare. Nightmares happen. I don't know what causes them, but they do happen. But how many of you remember having a nightmare? Did your parent come in and go, yeah, you got a lot to be afraid of. Yes, we need to be scared. Or did they come and they grab you and they say, let me hold you. Let me tell you how much I love you. Everything's going to be okay because you have love. You have me. You have God. You have Spirit. You are loved. That is what happens and how love can overcome fear. And we use it in our everyday life in so many different ways. As I said, you know, opening up and being truthful about what's going on with us. But I wanted to share a couple of fun little stories about, you know, in my life that I think about because I'm a single mom. And even today, my son, 35 years old, I'm still a single mom. You know, and he even, when he called me the other night, I spoke about him in our prayer requests today. He said to me, you know, not to, you know, drag down the topic or anything, Mom, but I don't know what I'm ever going to do when you pass away. And I said, well, honey, you know, don't worry, you got life insurance money. He goes, no. He goes, no, Mom. He goes, no, really. He goes, honestly, I'd rather have you than have that money. Sorry, a little verklempt. And he said, you know, because you're such a good person to talk to. You don't judge me. You love me through everything. And you let me grow. And and it took me a long time, you can ask Dottie, it took me a long time to be able to let go and let him grow on his own. But he has blossomed into a beautiful man and a wonderful husband and a caring person, and I'm very proud to say that he's my son. So,
Never thought I'd hear you say that.
I've always been proud of him, regardless of how much he drove me crazy. You know, our kids drive us crazy, but you know, that's part of what they're put here for, right? To help us remember that we are true love. So, I want to talk about how I helped him through fear when he was a little boy.
We have to get our gray hairs from somewhere.
Yeah. Thank you, Jan. Yeah. I told everybody I earned each and every one of these. So you know, when he was a little boy, when he was in kindergarten, the one thing that he wanted more than anything in the world was to go to Great America. Well, I love Great America, and at that time, we were financially kind of not really strong. And it was very expensive to take a child and go to Great America. But I decided I was going to find a way to do it. So for his 5th birthday, or actually it wasn't his 5th birthday, it was his kindergarten graduation. Aww. After he graduated kindergarten, I actually put a blindfold on him and I said, I've got a surprise for you, and I took him to Great America. And he was so excited and jumping up and down. But he was one of those kids that was terrified of any ride that was going to go fast, or terrified of anything that was, you know, of anything that was, you know, more than just a mild little ride. So we started off in the little kids area. But then I said, you know what? I want to have some fun too, and you're tall enough. Let's go on the demon. Will you try to go on the demon with me? And the demon, for those of you that aren't familiar with Great America, is a roller coaster that has 2 corkscrews and 2 upside down turns. And I actually got to go and ride the demon the day that it opened. I won a contest from a radio station, and I got to ride it 15 times in a row, so I knew how much fun the demon could be. And so my son, is with me, and he's standing in the line. He goes, "Okay, Mom, I'm going to try this." And he's slowly but surely backing away. He's slowly but surely back. And I kept saying to him, "Honey, it's okay. We're going to be safe." "Mommy, I'm just scared. Mommy, I'm so afraid. Mommy, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid." And I said, I think I have an idea. Now, some moms would have said, "Okay, fine, let's just get out of here. Okay, it's scary." And just let the child live in their fear. But I thought, if I don't get him past this fear, if he hates it, that's fine. He never has to do this again. I said, "I just want you to do this just once." Kind of like trying food, trying a food for the first time. I said, "I'll tell you what, let's have a screaming contest." Let's see, because that was the most loving way that I could find to deal with this fear, and let him kind of live in it a little bit. And I said, let's when we get on this roller coaster, we're going to scream, and we're going to scream as loud as we can. Whoever screams the loudest gets to choose what kind of snack we get. We can have an ice cream or whatever, And he goes, "Okay," so then he starts screaming immediately. And I said, "Honey, we're not on the ride yet. Wait a little bit, please." So we got on the ride, and the little things come down over your shoulders to hold you in tight, and he starts screaming, and I go, just one more minute, hold on to that scream." And we went, and we went there, and we both screamed the whole way. I didn't need to scream, but I screamed with him because it was part of the fun. And we got off of there, and he looked at me and he goes, "I love roller coasters, let's go again." Okay, so that's just a simple story, but it's just the simplest way in which love can really help you get through your fear. There are so many books and movies and stories out there that are centered in all about that. How did Harry Potter survive? When he was originally attacked by he who must not be named, by Voldemort, when he was a baby, his mother's love. His mother's love. And why was his mother's love there? Because she was connected with God. She was connected with Spirit. She was connected with the One. And she gave everything she had to save that boy. And every time that he got into his worst fears, somehow or another, somebody that loved him was right there for him. Okay, not a true story, or is it? Right?
It is too.
Harry Potter is too real. Yeah. That's right.
Spoken like a true wizard.
Our wizard back there, Wizard Corky. And I know I've said this before when I've been on the pulpit, is that one of my favorite books of all time is A Wrinkle in Time. Does anybody know about the book A Wrinkle in Time? Okay, there's a lot of people that, in case you don't know, it's basically a story about children who are trying to find their father, who learned how to move to different planets by using what's called a tesseract, which is kind of taking like they show it with a straight line like a skirt, and you put it together so it kind of wrinkles so that you're moving through the time and you're moving to the places in a very quick and easy way. And he got lost on this planet called Camazotz. And Camazotz was run by this big brain called It. And It had this pulsing energy. Hello, beautiful. It had this pulsing energy, and every child, when they skipped rope or when they bounced a ball, everything had to be in the exact rhythm. Kind of like the big brother is watching you kind of thing. Everything was exactly the same, and anybody that faltered in any way was punished. They were taken and brought to It and into the Central Intelligence Building, and they were kept captive by this dark entity until they got themselves in the same pulse as everybody else. Everybody thought alike, everybody looked alike, everybody was the same. And when Meg and her brother Charles Wallace, who was a brilliant little 5-year-old boy, and their friend Calvin managed to rescue the father, but Charles Wallace got captured by it. He got caught in there and in his power. So they get off to this other planet, and Meg is suffering because she was hurt in the travel. And as she recovers, the 3 guardians that were with her, that had helped her in the beginning, Mrs. Witch, Mrs. Whatsit, and Mrs. Who, they all came to her and they said, somebody has to, what are we going to do to save Charles Wallace? And the father wanted to go, and they said, no, you can't go. And Calvin wanted to go, and they said, no, you'll get harmed. And Meg just starts crying, and she says, I know it's me, it has to be me. And so Mrs. Whatsit says to her, and when you go, I want you to know that you have my love. You always have my love, Meg. And when Mrs. Witch takes her back to the planet, Mrs. Witch never really appears. She's always kind of a shimmer. She says, I never gave you my gift, and my gift is this. You have something that it does not have, and you have to find that for yourself. Can anybody guess what that was?
Love.
That's right, it was love. And when she started telling Charles Wallace how much she loved him, he broke free, and they broke free, and they all got to go home, and we had our happy ending. Now, again, spoiler alert. Okay, it's a children's book. Okay? I don't care if you know the ending or not. Read the book, because I started reading that book when I was 7 years old. I have read it.
Still reading
I
it?
still read it. I read it at least once a year. At least once a year. Yes, Regina.
Didn't they make a movie?
They did. They modernized it a little bit. It wasn't quite as touching as I thought the actual book was, but
Of course.
personally, books are always better. But I love this book. Like I said, the first time I read it, I was 7 years old. I read it every single year, and I'm so excited about the idea of being able to give it to my niece, who is turning 8 very soon, and she's really going to love that. So, how, in love helping you to let go of fear, you're opening up all kinds of channels for yourself, right? So, one of the things that you're opening up for yourself is manifestation. Because what do they say about manifestation? I mean, you can have something that you really want up here, but unless you feel it here, that 10 inches down, you're not going to be able to manifest, right? So manifestation is about love. Manifestation is about loving something enough and loving yourself enough. Are we having joke time back there?
It's like, oh, that's 10 inches.
Oh, that's 10 inches, yeah. That's what they used to... Yeah.
10 inches.
Oh, that's 10 inches. Oh, okay. There was a church...
Is this ministerial humor?
I don't know, is it? I'm blushing now.
Thank you, Reverend John.
Okay, a sense of humor helps too. No, actually, seriously, there was a church that I used to go to that they would talk about, they would say it was 10 inches from your head to your heart. But it was like, yeah, it was that 10 inches, Corbin. That we're talking about. But until you have it in your heart and you have it in your head, there's no manifestation. Until you let go and you let God, there's no manifestation. Until you can release your fears of the unknown, you can't allow love to conquer all, right? I mean, how in the world can you go forward when you're afraid to step forward? So, our wonderful Reverend Dr. Eileen has often spoke about a committee that lives inside of her. And we all have that committee within ourselves, and each of them has a voice, okay? So, there's a voice that says, I'm going to be happy today. There's a voice for happiness. There's a voice for fear. There's a voice for, for different kinds of things, and as you're looking at things. And sometimes fear does have a bit of a reasonable voice. But is it really fear? I think it's more, there's danger.
Caution.
And caution, but not necessarily fear, because to me fear is debilitating. To me fear stops you right in your tracks. And caution is something that you can open up enough to move forward a little bit. So, in other words, that if there's a hot coal sitting on the ground, and you want to pick it up and put it in the fire, you're probably going to want to use tongs, because there's a little bit of a danger and a caution to burn, that you might burn yourself. But does that mean you're going to be afraid of fire? Not necessarily. Now, some people have had fears. That's past life stuff, and things that have happened to them in this lifetime, experiences that occurred. For the longest time, I was afraid to go and do any rock climbing or hiking because I had fallen downstairs a couple of times and broke my leg both times that I fell down the stairs. So I was afraid to move forward. But then I remember how much I love being out in nature, and I've let myself go forward. Am I as adventurous as I was when I was 7 years old? No. Because I'm 58 now. And the body isn't quite as spry as it was. But it still is a good thing, that I can face that fear and go forward. There are fears that we have from past lives. Beck, is it okay from when we had a weekend when now her name escapes me.
Kathy Jones?
Kathy Jones was here. Thank you. When Kathy Jones was here, and Beck did have a past life fear of fire, and it was through love and support that she was able to get through it. And it's so blessed be for that. If it wasn't for the loving support of the choir and the loving support of this community, I probably wouldn't be standing here in front of you right now. It takes courage to stand up, and it also, you have to know that you're loved enough. And one of my biggest challenges has been to love myself as much as other people say I'm worth the love of. And that's my big thing. Yes, ma'am.
What the community, what the Circle of Love did for me was brought me into present time and allowed me to feel the overflow of the love lines coming to me and supporting me in moving through something that was so difficult. It was that love line that everyone channeled their own love and from higher love through, that I thought, wow, there's nothing I can't accomplish in this moment. That's what love did. It wasn't something mental, it was something of the heart.
It was absolutely of the heart. Thank you, Beck. Thank you for sharing that. And that's the exact truth. When I shared with the choir my fears, because I may have to be laying some people off, and I'm a compassionate person, I don't want to harm other people, and my fear of the possibility of losing my job if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, all these kinds of things that come forward, and to be surrounded and have people say, and come from their highest self of love, Mel, your socket to me. That is an act of love. That's an act of love for your fellow human beings that are out there that have less than perfect circumstances. Everything that everyone does here is an act of love. And that's how we overcome our fears. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be righteous. We don't have to be knowing absolutely everything. But when we feel that fear, if we just take a moment, step back, and absorb the energy and absorb the love that is all around us, we can get through it. So I did bring a few quotes, just a couple, because I don't want to bore everybody with a lot of talk. But I wanted to bring a few quotes, and the first one was from that hippie John Lennon that Paul mentioned, and it says, "There are two basic motivating forces: love and fear. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. We need to learn to love ourselves first in all our glory and our imperfections. If we cannot love ourselves, we cannot fully open to our ability to love others or our potential to create. Evolution, and all hopes for a better world rest in the fearlessness and open-hearted vision of people who embrace life." That's my goal. "There is no fear in love, but perfect love throws fear out the door and expels every trace of terror." That's from 1 John 4:18 in the Bible. For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but has given us a spirit of power and of love and of self-control. That's from 2 Timothy 1:7. Yes, I actually am quoting the Bible. And, you know, the one that I love is Marianne Williamson. Always, we love this one, and we've had it many times in our program. Our deepest fear is that we are not adequate, that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. In our light, not our darkness. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you to not be? Yeah, even you, David. You are gorgeous and wonderful. You're a child of God. You are a child of God. You are. Yeah, and you are gorgeous. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. So don't play small anymore, folks. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure, just in some of us. It's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thank you, Marianne Williamson. Nowhere in there does she say, except for the last one, as we're liberated from our fear. But she is stating that. If you are afraid to get out there and live to your fullest, then you are just hiding from your best potential, and you're not doing anybody or the world any favors. Here's another one from Marianne. Love is what we were born with. Fear is what we learned here. That's a big one. I'd like to repeat that if that's okay. Love is what we were born with. Fear is what we have learned here. It doesn't have to hold us back anymore. Now that we know this, we got the secret. We know. And the very last quote that I have is, because of deep love, we are courageous. That's Lao Tzu. So all I can say in conclusion is, open up, let spirit enter your heart, know that you are loving and lovable and loved in all ways and always. And so it is.
How many of you know what the greatest fear is?
Public speaking.
In public. Okay? All